Hello and welcome to an update on my Astrox Imperium ship stat generator. It's now up to version 0.83. I made some updates just today. It is the 11th of September 2022. So most of the stuff from before is the same. We've got the generator here using the rational ranges, vanilla ship ranges. You pick a ship class, you pick a ship type, it gives you the ranges. You can randomize all the stats, get the worst stats, best stats, level 2 stats, or level 3 stats, and it gives you the prices. You can edit the group ranges here as before, where basically this is going to determine the ranges for the shields and so forth. And then over here, edit ship type multipliers down here. And edit ship price ranges over here. So it's all the same as before, but there is a new section called the Shipbuilder, which is really the thing that I really wanted to be working on, but I wanted to make a generator first just so that I could at least get that available to people. But now I've got a Shipbuilder, which works on the ground up. So the previous method, the stat generator, works top down. You start with a ship class and a ship type, and then you set up your stats based on that. So you see what the expected ranges are and so on. The shipbuilder works from the bottom up. You construct the stats that you want, and then it determines the class, the mass, and the price. So I'm going to go ahead and delete a couple of ships here. These are just defaults that are unnecessary. So we're going to start with a new ship, and we'll see how this works. So we're going to name the ship. I'm going to name him Frank. Frank the ship. We're going to start out by making a little shuttle. So a shuttle is this isn't in the system. It doesn't show you this, but basically the smallest the shuttles go from essentially mass of 20 to mass of 40. Right now the ship price is 140 and the ship mass is 4 because there's nothing on there, but that's fine. So we're going to do the minimal the minimal version of a shuttle named Frank, and that's just going to be these little micro components. And I'll explain this in just a minute. Trust me, I'm not just going to leave you hanging. All of that's good. And so here is our minimum ship class shuttle with a ship mass of 20 and a ship price of 200,000. So that's your baseline bottom end thing. And it shows you in these little green areas what the stats are for that ship. Here and here, and then also over here. And then over on this last panel here, you've got your drone bays, active slots, passive slots, and then the modifiers, which I'll get to shortly. So let's start at the beginning. So every single element that creates a ship stat is based on these components. Now, this is all something that I have created, and the goal here is to come up with this idea of ship components in order to help guide you into actually constructing your ship visually in the Astrox ship editor. There is no real connection between the ship's stats and the ship's visuals in the game. So if you really want to kind of tie the two together, it's important to understand kind of roughly what components would be needed to put together a ship of a specific set of stats. So this is what I've done. For example, here we've got thrusters. There are small, medium, and large thrusters. Now, again, I just need to reiterate this. This is not part of the game. These ideas don't exist in the game. They are just for the purposes of the ship builder to help you figure out what your ship is going to look like. But it doesn't have to look like that. It doesn't matter what it looks like. You can make the stats and the visuals not match at all. It's entirely up to you. This is just in case you want that level of granularity, but you can ignore the granularity and just use the builder as it is and just forget what it's going to look like on the basis of this. So we look at our thrusters, our small thrusters. How many of these small thrusters do we want? A small thruster gives us a thrust of 100 and gives us a turn rate of, drops the turn rate down by 0.1. It starts out at 1.5, which is the fastest turn rate, but as you add thrusters of different sizes, it drops your turn rate down and increases your engine burn. So here we go. So you start with zeros, no thrust, can't go anywhere. But now we can go up by 1 to 2 to 3, 4, and 5, and so on. Each of these thrusters gives you a certain amount of mass. And this available indicator here isn't a real thing. It's just sort of a rough guideline. So roughly speaking, the very largest ships that are in the game have what I have determined, what I have sort of calculated out to be roughly 50 mass points of thrusters. Again, it's entirely arbitrary. This is really just a guideline. If you want to go and make it super huge thrusters, you're more than welcome to. Just be aware that your turn rate actually can't go below 0.1. So you just have to enter 0.1 in the game. It doesn't really calculate that. It's assuming that you're not going to max out beyond your full total mass of 52 for thrusters. And again, this is just chuckle numbers. I made these up. This is just as a way to help design ships in a way that is consistent and rational and relatively balanced to one another. So let's say we wanted to make a ship with a small thruster and 2 medium thrusters. So we get a total of thrust, turn rate of 0.8, engine burn of 0.5. Alternatively, we could do it this way. That changes our turn rate and has the same engine burn. Gets us a worse worse turn rate. But that's because we're doing 5 small thrusters instead of 2 mediums and 1 small. So that gets us it gives us a better turn rate than going with this, and that's entirely fine. So maybe we'll do that instead. All right, so now we have that. Now this also results in a mass of 10 versus here it's a mass of 22 because we're using mediums. So there is a trade-off with all of this, the larger you get. If we do this with this medium, this immediately brings it up to escort size because it's a ship mass of 40, which is the minimum size for an escort. Minimum mass, I should say, for an escort. And again, chuckle numbers. I made these up. They fit. They're intended to balance. You don't have to pay attention to this if you don't want to. You say, no, that's still going to be a shuttle. Go right ahead. It's not set in stone in any way. This is just a guideline. Well, let's say we want to put 3 mediums and 2 smalls. Let's do that. So we have 3 medium thrusters and 2 small thrusters. We're using up 34 mass out of what would sort of be available of 52. Not really. Again, not really. It's just for the calculations. Gives us a thrust of 800, turn rate of 0.4, engine burn of 0.8. I don't like that turn rate. That turn rate sucks. Let's see. Can we do any better? No, probably not for this size. But we could do that, and that keeps our mass level down, keeps us in a shuttle if we're using 4 small thrusters and 1 medium. All right, we'll go with that. Now for our generators. So we've got a total energy output right now of 100. We could go up this way, or we can go up this way. Our energy recharge rate will go up. It will scale along with the energy because it's intended to kind of recharge at a speed that is rationally consistent with the energy level. So let's go ahead and do an energy recharge rate and a total energy of 700. That's a micro and a small generator, mass of 20. Can we do it differently? Can we do something like that? Mass of 18, energy recharge rate is better. Slightly higher energy as well, and that's just because we're using micro generators and one small. So we'll go with that. Shields down here, we've got total shield output right now of 50. Let's say put on a medium shield that gives us 1,000. Shield recharge of 1.6. We'll go with that. Now let's go over to the armor and life support. Over here, we've got a total armor level of right now is only 20. So let's put some pretty hefty armor on this guy. Go up to 1520. Take down the micro armor and go to standard. We have 1500. Now we could do this the other way. For example, the micros aren't great. Thins aren't great either. So let's do that, and there. That gets us 1500 with 5 thin plates and 2 standard. Mass of 45. Or we could do this, and that is a lower mass because standard armor is a little bit more efficient. So we're going to do it that way. But again, you don't have to. You can do however you want. It's up to you. It's your ship. All right, so now we can look at our armor resistances. So this will only affect price. It will not affect the mass. So if we want to give it some better resistances, we can go here. Let's say energy resistance. You can see the ship price is changing. But let's go ahead and drop down its explosive resistance. There we go. Now to life support. Total life support isn't so great, so let's maybe give it a medium. 750. There we go. We're now up to a utility class with a ship mass of 111 and a ship price of about $1 million. So let's go over to the cargo and scanners. This is a shitty cargo space. That is nothing. Let's boost that up to a large. 4,000 cargo space. Now we could do this with 2,000 here, and maybe we can get up to 3,000 with four medium bays and 5 small bays. Again, that gives us a mass of 65. Or we can do from here mass of 30 because the larger bays are lower mass. All of this just is you design it to how you want. This makes it a frigate, ship mass of 139. Our price is 2.6 million. Active scanners. We have an active scan speed of 1 and only 2 targets. For a frigate, that's kind of bullshit. So let's go up. Scan speed of 20, maximum targets of 20. That's a 10 band. So we've got 2 10 bands, and the bands basically just means how many targets it can have. So we have, and again, I made this up. Just be aware. I made this up. It's not in the game. Don't blame Momo. It's all on me. So we're going to do, oh, that brings it up to a cruiser. Let's keep it down as a frigate at this point. Maybe we'll have to, because of the passives, we're going to have to prop this down. Active scan speed of 10, maximum targets of 10. Okay. Passive scanners. Passive scan range is only 500. That is some bullshit. Let's do a 6,000. Passive scan speed of 20. We are still a frigate. 2.8 million. Drones and slots. Okay, so let's give it a couple of drone bays. And let's give it... oh, that's now a cruiser. Let's take this down. We need to get it down below 180. Okay, well, we're not going to be able to pull that off, right? If we wanted this to stay as a frigate, but give it some rational number of modules, we're going to have to drop some other stuff down. So maybe we'll take the cargo down to 2,000. And now we can pop our modules up. Oh, yeah, look at that. We can get this all the way up to... yeah, 5 and 6 for this frigate here. We're at ship mass of 179, which is actually just capped out because if we did one more, it becomes a cruiser. So we're at 2.7 million. We had to drop some cargo space down. And now we get to our modifiers. So these are the general modifiers, and these are the weapon modifiers. So for the general modifiers, these will only affect the price. And these are just the bonuses, the percentage bonuses. It can go between negative 50% and positive 250%. And that's simply because that's limits in the ship editor. So let's say we want to give it some bonuses that'll increase our price but keep the ship mass the way it is. So we weren't able to get at the cargo level we wanted. We could only do one large cargo bay, which gave us 2,000. We wanted to really do 4,000, right? So let's go ahead and find max cargo. We wanted to go up by 100%, right? We want to give it to a level of, instead of 2,000, we want it to be 4,000. I mean, this is going to be ridiculous, but let's do 100. That makes the price really high. It gives us nearly 5.5 million because we are over cranking its large cargo bay to give it 100% increase. Now, these bonuses are also impacted by skill level and so on, and so it's not a one-to-one, but maybe that's a lot more than we want to pay for a frigate. So let's actually drop this down to say 50% increase in cargo, and then that brings us to 4.1 million. No, actually, here's a better idea. Let's go to 100, which is what we really wanted. And then maybe we'll drop down, so we'll kill some of our life support. Can we do that? No, we cannot. I guess there's no bonus for that. Well, that's fine. Let's make this thing a bit of tissue paper. Let's take our shields down. So let's take our max shield down by, say, 25%. That brings it down a little bit. Shield recharge rate down by 25%. Now it's 4.1 mil. That's more reasonable, right? Okay. So it's going to kick us in the butt for shields, but are we going to get our cargo that we really, really want? Now if we go over to the weapon modifiers, these are the modifiers for gun strength, speed, energy, range, laser, strength, speed, energy, range, and so on. And we can do, you know, bobby-da-da-da-da if we want. That's arbitrary and dumb, so we're not going to do that. But there we go. All right. So ship class is a frigate. Ship mass is 179. Ship price is 4,113,000. And then when you go into the editor, you're going to go ahead and put this information here, thrust and so on, all the stuff in the green, here and here, and then over here as well. And then the drone slots, you're going to do drone bays, and then the active module slots, you just enter this information as well in the editor. And then you put in your modifiers and your weapon modifiers. And then that's how you make it. Now that we've made a frigate. If we wanted to do more, if we wanted to give it some better life support, but keep all our stats, it'll end up becoming a cruiser at 194 ship mass. That's actually kind of insane because you're basically giving it two mediums. So let's do a medium and a small. That's still a cruiser, but it's 187 ship mass. Let's maybe give it some additional scan. Give it a 5-band and a 10-band. That brings it up to 195. It's still a cruiser. It's not too much more expensive. Goes up to 4.185. And so on. And that's basically it. That's how you use the Shipbuilder. Now, the other thing that you can do, if you don't like the way my settings are aligned, you don't like how much these components cost and so on, and you want to do your own, just like with the stat generator, where you can edit your ship price ranges, ship type multipliers, and your range groups, the minimums and the maximums, you can do something similar in the Shipbuilder. You can go over here and go to the Settings Matrix Editor. Right now we have Settings Matrix Default. If we go to the editor, we've got a default here. We can go ahead and say make a new matrix. They have to all be unique names, so it just timestamps it. We're going to call this one the Frank Matrix. And over here, these are the prices and stats and the masses for all of those components that we were looking at. So small thrusters give you a thrust of 100, mediums 200, largest 300. They reduce your turn speed by this amount. They increase your engine burn by this amount, and they have a mass of this, each of these ones. And these are the prices of individual ones. Now remember, back over here in the thrusters, you could add more than one of each if you wanted to. And so this is just the price and so on for one. Same thing with the generators, shields, armor, the armor resistance price modifier, life support, cargo, active scanner, passive scanner, and then individual drone bay masses and prices. And then your global modifier, price modifier, which is the price differential that you get from the modifiers here. Basically, 0.01 makes it so that 1%, the default is 1%, which gets you to essentially 10,000 if you are, well, actually, I should probably change that. That's a little misleading. Basically, it's 1%. It's not 10,000. It was 10,000 when the base price was $1 million on the shuttles, but that's all changed. So that's not really the case. I'm just going to say note default is 1%. I'll just edit that shortly when I do my next update to version, what was it? It'll be 0.84 or whatever. Now, these defaults are not set in stone. As I said, you can change these around. But if the default right now, if I create a new set, whenever I create a new one, it just reconfigures with a default, and then I can change numbers around here if I want to. Whoops, and so on. And that's the Frank matrix, and I can go over here and say, let's use the Frank matrix instead. Ta-da! Frank matrix or default, and so on. Oh, that's not what I want to do. And let's get back here. Okay, so these aren't exactly 100% balanced yet. They are better than they were on 0.80, but they could use some work, and I will be working on that going forward, trying to kind of make sure everything scales right. That they all work on roughly the right kind of a curve and so on. But for right now, they're fine. If you find that there's something that you don't like, if there's something that's egregiously off, please do make a new matrix, adjust it, and then let me know in the Discord. Hey, I think I've solved a problem here. There's something wrong with this balance. Here are the numbers that I'm using that I think are better. I may just go ahead and make a new default based on that. I'm trying to make it suitable for people who want to make ships. This is not. I'm not trying to establish a default that is set in stone. I'm trying to create a default that works for the community doing the shipbuilding. So finally, the last thing I want to mention is how I would use this when I'm using the ship editor. And I think what I'll do in another episode is I will go ahead and actually make a ship using results for Shipbuilder. I'll make something other than Frank for that. But basically, the way I would do it is I would say, okay, so I've got 4 small thrusters and 1 medium thruster. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put some engine parts on my ship. I'm going to have 4 small ones and 1 medium one. For generators, I'm going to have 5 micro and 1 small of a specific ship part that makes me think of generators. Shields, same thing. I'm going to put 2 medium-sized thingies that are they look like shields. Armor, maybe I'll put some plates on the outside, like 3 large wing plates or something like that alongside parts of the ship. Life support, same thing. Find some modules that look like life support sections. Cargo, there are cargo parts, so I can use those explicitly, like a large one. Or if I do, say, a large and a couple mediums or whatever, so on and so forth. Scanners, passive scanners, same thing. I would put down components, so I'd have sort of this middle-ish size and a slightly smaller one, and then a 2 medium-sized objects, 2 medium-sized components that look like a passive scanner. And then over here on drones, I would make sure to have something that looks like a drone bay, make sure I have 2 of them on there. And then I would put 5 active module slots on, and then have 6 items that look like passives, kind of ish. That's how I would do it. And that way, what you end up with is a ship that roughly conforms size-wise, theoretically, to a cruiser, or more specifically, the sizes will balance off to one another. If you do this consistently, then all of your shuttles will have smaller parts and fewer parts, and all of your dreadnoughts will have bigger parts and a lot more parts. And as a result, they will naturally be physically bigger in your ship editor. So you don't have to think as hard as you used to about what the sizes should be relative to other ships that you've made, because it'll kind of work itself out in the wash. Maybe not 100%, but it'll be closer. And that's really the goal of the shipbuilder, is to be able to incorporate the design with how you physically lay it out in the editor so that the visual looks good. Whereas the ship stat generator, where it was top down, you set your class and then your type and so on, unfortunately, there's really no relationship between these numbers and what it would look like, and I don't have a good way of kind of defining that in the generator. So one last thing to mention about limitations of the builder. Currently, I do not have ship type set up, and I don't have ship level set up. So you're going to have to kind of know what you want. Your ship types are probably going to be related to your modifiers and kind of what you've decided to put in as your module, as your component types. And then ship level, same thing, but honestly what I would maybe do is say that level 1, 2, and 3 conform to the low and high and middle ends of the ship masses for the various classes. But again, that's something you're going to have to figure out at this time. Down the road, I probably will find a calculation that satisfies me on how to do both ship type and ship level, but at the moment, I haven't figured out a really good way of doing that without getting deep into the weeds programmatically, which it's limited in what I can do with FileMaker Pro. So anyway, that's what we've got for the shipbuilder. Again, if you have any suggestions, recommendations, or if you have a new default set for the matrix that you think is better than the one that I've got, please do mention it in the Discord, in the Share Mod Tools channel, or in the modding community channel. I'm there all the time, and I will be updating this as I go. I hope that with version 1.0, I will be able to do exporting of the ship data using the Shipbuilder. I'm going to be using the Shipbuilder as my primary mode from now on. The stat generator still will be there. It'll still do its thing, and I will do bug fixes if necessary, but I'm not going to expand on it. I'm really going to be more focused on the Shipbuilder. And eventually, like I said, my hope is to be able to generate a text output for that portion of the ship design elements for the document that you would need to put in as a modded file for the game. Anyway, like I said, Discord channel. Hit me up if you have any questions or comments. Really appreciate it if you would. Thanks for watching. See you on the other side.